Reza have been working hard and raising the bar on Automobilista 2. In this video, I'm going to tell you why the recent updates have absolutely, unequivocally, massively transformed this simulator and why you need to actually give it a go now and also join us when we're live streaming it. This is good news for AMS2 casuals and fanboys. For those of you willing to waste your life watching a bold man waste his life, you can join us now on Twitch because I'm doing loads of live streaming there. The link is in the description. Click it and follow at your own risk. 9 out of 10 doctors agree that the Gamer Muscle Twitch channel is bad for your health. 1 out of 10 doctors died after watching the Gamer Muscle Twitch channel. In order to talk about the current state of Automobilista 2, the best racing simulator of 2019, we have come to Imola in Italy to drive the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. Now, unfortunately, Porsche employ the same person that names game consoles at Microsoft to name their cars, and as a result, there's like 12 GT3 Porsches and 14,000 Porsche 911s. Needless to say, we're in the 4.0 Cup GT3 car. I don't think it is actually a GT3 car. Might be, might not be. You don't know with Porsche unless you check through the car manual. Anyway, we're going to get driving. We're going to talk about the changes in the simulator. So let's get in the car here. Let's pray our volume levels are good for you guys. And go. So, of course, I am actually playing in the Super Mega Monster rig. 165 inches of displays, and Automobilista 2, with it being a nice modern graphics engine, actually runs quite well on those displays and also looks super glorious. But I don't want to brag too much about my LG OLED screens because that would just be showing off, and YouTubers never show off. So, Automobilista 2, guys. As you guys will have known, if you watch the channel, my big complaint and contention with AMS2 has pretty much centered around its rear differential, or the differential behavior in the simulator, because in my opinion and in the objective fact, it's mostly been awful. However, recently Reza have been doing updates and tweaks and stuff to the sim, and I've kind of been ignoring it. I've been too busy live streaming on Twitch, wasting my life to the poggy people. Actually, I've had good fun live streaming on Twitch. Go and follow our Twitch channel if you want to join our live streams. It's been fun casually live streaming on Twitch. Great community side of that. That's another video, Twitch versus YouTube. But because I've been on Twitch and doing other stuff, we had a bit of a big break from AMS2, and I came back to it after there's been a few updates. And lo and behold, I have to say, the behaviour of the rear of the car, specifically on braking and also on throttle as well, definitely seems a lot better. I would still say, at this point in time, the cars seem a bit stiff with their rear diffs, or the diffs in general. If you fiddle through the diff settings, reducing clutch places, increasing clutch angles and everything, auto bind, even if you fiddle with it a lot, it doesn't seem to change the handling of the cars that much. Like the diff settings don't seem to have as much impact, or as much subtle impact before the tyres go over the limit as you would probably expect from other simulators. But, crucially, regardless of that, whatever Reza have done, the cars actually handle much more in line with other racing simulators now, and my 2 minutes in real race cars. I've only driven an Aero Latinum, and I've only driven a Toyota Celica for a few laps, so my real race driving acumen is pathetic. But, crucially, what I've noticed now is that, so when you're dabbing the brake to get the car to nose into a corner, and the back starts to come out, it's much more progressive, with quite a few of the cars in the simulator now. There's still some cars that seem to drive absolutely awful, but there's a lot more cars that have a much more progressive turn into the corner, which is really satisfying and kind of important because it's a fundamental aspect of driving in that you get most of your speed off initially on the brake. You want to brake as hard in a straight line as possible to get most speed off, but then you want to you use the brake pedal to trail brake it through the corner, and you use that to get a lot of control. So personally, I'm a driver that likes to drive off the brake and the accelerator pedal. I'm not a steering wheel driver. I really like to control how the car's moving from the brake and the accelerator more so than the steering wheel. Because the cars effectively in Automobilista 2, for whatever reason, all really drove as if they had some kind of locked diff, and I will say they do still drive as if they have a very locked diff, but way better than it was before. But because of that, in the past, basically, you had really, really good throttle control of the cars coming out of corners, so you could, as soon as you got on the power, you could, like, the back would go. It was amazing. Every car was like an aerial atom in that regard. The back just wanted to launch around on the throttle. But coming off the throttle and using the brake, the cars just didn't want to progressively go into corners. But now, when you're using the brake, you have more than enough really nice, subtle rear control of the car, which is fantastic. And actually, for me, that was, in my opinion, but it was also objective fact, that was a huge physics issue in AMS2, and I think it's got to a level now where I am pretty happy with it. I think it could definitely be better, but it's passable. It's passable. So I think that a lot of people will think this is absolutely shit hot now, just because of that one aspect. I don't know if it is because they've changed. I know they've done some drivetrain changes and some aspects to it that they've worked on. I don't know how much of that's from the drivetrain, other tweaks. You know, there's so many emergent properties of a car in a driving simulator from all the different components that sometimes one thing somewhere completely unrelated affects something else. But it doesn't really matter. End of the day, I jumped onto this recently and I just drive. I ended up driving until 1 a.m. the other day. Just driving around in circles. I was like, oh, okay, that's all right. So that's really nice. That's really nice. Good job, Reza. Whatever you've done. Hopefully it keeps progressing in that regard. But also, outside of that, what I found is so the thing is, a lot of people are critical of the handling in AMS2 in general, or other aspects of handling that I've always thought are perfectly fine. And one thing that you notice with AMS2's tyres that really stands out as being awesome is the mid-corner grip and the bite of the tyres. They have a real nice rubbery feel mid-corner bite that's very realistic. And yesterday I spent like 13 hours playing iRacing, and the tyres in that game are just beyond hilariously unrealistic in terms of not the initial grip, but as soon as you start getting on the limit, start sliding, it's like the grip fall off is like some weird slop thing that then it gets stuck and then it takes ages to come back. Whereas in AMS2, it's much more like AC, AMS1, Race Room, Live for Speed, or whatever. Where basically, once you start sliding, the grip wants to come back to you. Same in a real car. If you've ever driven a real car, as soon as you start, assuming that you've actually got grip and the tyres aren't cold and the track's not cold and it's not green, but if you've got grip, optimal conditions, as soon as you start sliding in a real car with nice tyres, the grip wants to come back. The car is like fighting to be on your side. Tyres are like trying not to slide. And you really get that feeling with AMS2, especially with the force feedback file that I'm using, custom force feedback. You definitely need to use that. I'm not a big fan of the default force feedback with AMS2. But coming from like iRacing to AMS2, and it's like, oh my god, how much better AMS2's general grip profile, general handling at the limit compared to R-Factor 2. You couldn't, R-Factor 2, iRacing. You couldn't really notice it so much before because the back was flying out so easily, and you couldn't be as subtle on the general handling. It was the car just wanted to be so overly pokey, as if it had some super mega lock diff. you couldn't really then appreciate it was hiding the more nuanced aspects of the tyre model that are actually very, very nice and very rubbery feeling. So it's so nice, especially after having played iRacing for quite a while. It's so nice to jump in a sim and just drive and have the car is working towards helping you. Like you have to push the car. That's exactly what it's like in real life. You unless it's not optimal, you know. When I say in real life, I'm saying in optimal conditions, because real life has way more variation than driving sims. So, you know, real life could be way worse than any sim and also way better than any sim in terms of grip and forgivingness and everything. But in optimal conditions, you really have to push a car. And, you know, drivers tend to, like, overdo it in bad ways. That's bad driving. Bad driving in real life isn't someone just willy-nilly losing it into a wall or sliding everywhere. It's them not being pushing the car correctly. It's hard to explain. But anyway, this is so not just pleasant to drive some of these cars now. A huge thing that I noticed, it's not so noticeable in this car. Again, I'll keep comparing to real life here. Real race driver. 3 minutes in a car, he thinks he's Ayrton Senna. One thing I noticed in AMF2, again, I think it absolutely nails. I know this video is too positive, guys. I had to share this. Contrary to what people think, I do actually like being positive and excited about driving simulators. It just turns out that driving sims often are more annoying than enjoyable at times, so it takes time for them to mature. 3 million years, or they never mature like iRacing. Anyway, positivity. One thing this does absolutely amazingly, and it's something that I notice particularly in real life, is when you go into a braking zone in a real car and in Automobilista too, when you're absolutely on the limit of the brakes, the wheel, and you sort of start locking up, the undulations in the road cause the wheels to sort of momentarily lock up and then not unlock. Like if you're absolutely poning it, you get this sensation. Traffic jam. You get this sensation in a real car of, like, first of all you feel the G-forces, you deaccelerate, it's very obvious, but you have this sort of skipping tyre sensation as the tyres like partially lock up, partially bar on the road, and you also get this skidding sound where it's like as the wheels are like going over bumps and you're like braking as hard as possible. Again, it's going to depend from car to car if it's got ABS, if it's not, you know, all these other things, and how bumpy the road is and how grippy the surface is. But so I was driving the one of these stock cars in this game, and it was doing exactly the same thing. And it's not something I've ever noticed in any driving simulator, particularly, especially also the sound of it. It was weird how the high-pitched tyre squeal, or that it was producing, it doesn't really do it in this car, I don't think. Let's see. No, it doesn't really do it in this car, but it was in the stock car. It's the first time I've ever noticed a simulator actually capturing that. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome. But also, it demonstrates the fact that you can effectively go over the limit, but the tyres are on braking, but the tyres bite back. They want to come back to you. And this is a huge problem. Again, sorry to just like slag off iRacing here. Everyone takes iRacing as being some kind of godly sim when it's atrocious. Good online matchmaking, only sim you can play in certain time zones, but my god, the physics are terrible for the tyre model. But the tyres get stuck over the limit. And it's not just in iRacing. A lot of sims have this issue where when you're braking and you lock up, or your threshold braking, and the tyres sort of do that skippy thing. Once you've gone over the limit, it's like, oh, I've gone over the limit, you slide and that's it, you're done. There's nothing you can do, really. You just have to really effectively brake not at the limit of braking, which isn't right. Like, if you've been in a fast, even a very fast road car on a track, or a race car, and you know, anything decent, with someone driving it, absolutely pushing it, or you've driven it yourself and pushed it, you really can be quite harsh on the brakes, and you can actually lock up and then just come off the gas, off the brake pedal and the grip comes back. It's not the end of the world. It's not like an auto continue and like slide forever or a death penalty insta rotation. It's just driving. So, yeah. Now, I obviously understand this video is probably going to confuse the AMS2 fanboys because they're used to me being just complaining about the diff. But I'm sure they will have to admit that even if it's not the diff, something has changed in AMS2 that's making it drive much more smooth and much more progressive. So it's driving much more like the other simulators. So much more like AC, AMS1, with a few of the cars in the game, not necessarily all of them. Things are just more planted, but at the same time, that is allowing some of the more subtle aspects of the tyre model, the set of tyre model that this uses, to actually come out and shine. Because the tyre model that AMS uses, and Project Cars 2, which everyone slagged off Project Cars 2, but I had a lot of fun with it. The tyre model that it uses actually has some really advanced, very interesting components to it. But, you know, there's no point of having that advanced depth and complexity if a very basic fundamental aspect of car handling doesn't work. I mean, because it's sort of like a hierarchy of what's important with a car. So with the baseline handling seemingly being a lot better now, well, that really does let you then appreciate the more nuanced stuff that you're not going to notice if the car like flies around as if someone's just driven a London bus into the back of it. But yes, so really what this video is me saying, if you've not played Automobilista 2 for a while, chuck it on, give it a go. But also, we are on Twitch. I will be live streaming it. We're going to be going through more of the content. I'm going to be doing more setup fiddling and stuff as well, dialing things in and seeing where we can get things, so we can do a more updated video. I just loaded up AMS2 at like, I don't know, it's probably like 10 PM. I ended up playing it for 2 hours. This is after doing like 14 hours of live streaming. And I was like, okay, that's better. That's much better. So I have to, you know, if I'm going to slag them off or be critical, I'm going to equally be positive, because I like to, you know, both sides. Even though not everything can be broken into two sides, it really annoys me how people break stuff into two sides. It's not like that. But anyway, right. There is not much more to say other than you need to try it for yourself, innit? Try it for yourself. You need to also click the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our Twitch, because we'll be on Twitch live streaming. But assuming you've just done that, thank you very much for watching this. Happy tea drinking. Good job, Reza. And goodbye, everyone.